Welcome to another episode of NBA 2K19 roster edits with Remember the Great Sports. Today I'm going to go through the Oklahoma City all-time Thunder roster. Now, if you saw my previous video, I decided that I like to split the all-time Thunder and the all-time Seattle Supersonics into two separate teams. Now, I'll post that video at the end of this video and also up here in the corner. So if you want to check out that video with the Seattle Supersonics, you're more than welcome to do so. But I also did this with the New Orleans Pelicans / Hornets and also the Charlotte Hornets. I just like the idea of separating the two. I realize that they're the same franchise, but I think that it just adds two more teams to your NBA 2K arsenal if you do it that way. Now, if you prefer to leave them all like they are, that's perfectly up to you. I just want to share with you what I enjoy doing. So, with that being said, the all-time Thunder, there's a lot of changes we got to make because most of it is consisted of Seattle Supersonics players. The only technical two that I think, or one that's on this team, is Kevin Durant that played for the Sonics his rookie year and the Thunder. So, with that being said, you delete Ray Allen, you delete Gary Payton, Shawn Kemp, Spencer Haywood, Dennis Johnson, Jack Sikma, Rashard Lewis, Dale Ellis, Xavier McDaniel, Lenny Wilkens, Detlef Schrempf. And you leave Serge Ibaka and James Harden alone. However, I think I switched Serge Ibaka's out, but we'll have to check. So stay with me. I'll show you my additions to the roster. I believe everybody is on the game that I added to the roster, so you don't have to create any players unless you choose that you'd like to do that yourself. Alright, well, if you ever asked yourself, what would it be like? What if you could play with the Oklahoma City Thunder with Russell Westbrook, James Harden, and Kevin Durant? I mean, there are so many times that people have said, wow, what if those guys were together? Well, I did that, but I took it a step further, and I added Paul George and Steven Adams to the starting five. So I'm going to break my rule just a little bit here, okay? Paul George only played 2 seasons with the Thunder. Typically, I do not put somebody on the team unless they played a minimum of 3 years on the team. However, being that the Thunder's history, when I segregate it, does not exist basically, past the early 2000s, I felt that putting Paul George on the team along with another player who's only been there a couple seasons was very valid. So with that being said, your starting point guard, of course, is Russell Westbrook. Your starting shooting guard is a young James Harden. With that being said, here's a mature Paul George. He's only ranked at 89 because that's where he's ranked at this point in his career. Obviously, 10 years ago, his ranks were higher when he was a Pacer. However, I'm looking at his Oklahoma City Thunder numbers and put him at the starting small forward. You put Kevin Durant at the starting power forward position. So you have 4 of the most elite scorers in the last decade of the NBA in this starting lineup, which is pretty awesome. The man in the middle, of course, is Steven Adams. I am finally happy. I think this is the first year they finally updated his photo. I want to say for the last 4 seasons or so, they almost had like a stock image player of him, and it looked nothing like him. So I'm very happy that they finally updated Steven Adams. But Steven Adams, the current player of the Thunder, the man in the middle. With that being said, you have a young Serge Ibaka as the backup power forward. Serge Ibaka started his career with the Thunder. This is him on the stock roster, so he's the backup power forward. The backup center is Enes Kanter. Kanter only played about 3 seasons, 2.5 seasons there. Very formidable. Eventually, you can't have 2 big guys that are very similar doing the same thing, and I think that's why Kanter eventually, was traded away from the Thunder because they didn't need two guys like him on the team. But a very good backup nonetheless to Steven Adams. They're basically interchangeable. Adams sits down, Kanter takes over, and it's about the same type of player. Your backup point guard, Dennis Schroder. This, again, is only a guy that's played there for 2 seasons. This is the start of his second season going into this. So I added him to the team as the backup point guard. This is a very formidable backup point guard to Russell Westbrook, just like he is now. If you watch the Thunder, they play them both at the same time. So you definitely could do that as well. Have a Schroeder/Westbrook combo going at the same time. So definitely him as the backup point guard. Your backup small forward, Jeff Green. A lot of people forget that Jeff started his career out with Oklahoma City. I don't think he was originally drafted by him. As you can see, he had 3 very good seasons, and he was traded mid-season or, during the deadline to Boston in his 4th year. However, he's a great small forward, power forward combo. He can back up either Durant or Paul George in this lineup. So, filling in at the small forward for Paul George as a backup with Ibaka at the power forward, very good, but he can play either the 3 or 4, and he's a good ball player and still is to this day. Andre Roberson, he's in there as the backup shooting guard. I don't know if there's a better shooting guard that's been there as long as Andre. Andre's a good defensive player, not really big on the offensive skills, so you're losing a lot with him coming in off the bench, at your shooting guard position. However, if you need some help defensively, he might be the guy you need to turn to in this lineup. Backup center, Kendrick Perkins. This is actually backup center or backup power forward. Kendrick Perkins played, a pretty good amount of time for Oklahoma City. Those numbers don't show it, but he was there, basically before Steven Adams was there. So he's a great addition on the bench for the team. You got to have the all-time Thunder team with the all-time Thunder guy, Nick Collison. He simply gets on the team because he's like the Cal Ripken of the Thunder. He played his entire career there. I want to say darn near 10. I don't know. He was there a long time. But obviously he started in 2004, 2005. I want to say he just retired last year or the year before. So, again, a nice formidable power forward to come in off the bench to fill in, when needed. But he's not going to light the night on fire like some of the stars on other teams. Finally, Thabo Sefolosha. He started out his career as an Oklahoma City Thunder. He's kind of bounced around a little bit around the league. However, I felt that he was probably a pretty good fit as the backup small forward / shooting guard on this team. The other 2 that I added was a young Reggie Jackson, but I felt with Dennis Schroder backing up the point guard, Reggie just wouldn't get a lot of minutes, so I put him on the reserve list. And the same can be about an aged Derek Fisher. Both of these guys were good players. Reggie's a great player with the Detroit Pistons, but he wasn't really at the peak of where he's at now while he was with the Thunder. He makes the team, just not the starting 13. And the same with Derek Fisher. He's like the unspoken captain of the team, so to speak. And he played the end of his career there. Not better than Dennis Schroder at the point, but very good at what he does. And this is a mature Derek Fisher, not the Derek Fisher of the Lakers era. The head coach is current head coach Billy Donovan. However, I do have the assistant coach of Scott Brooks. Scott Brooks was the coach before Billy Donovan. I feel that there's probably not a better combo to have. I mean, if you prefer Scott Brooks over Billy Donovan, that's definitely interchangeable. However, it's, who's had more success. It's kind of a toss-up between the 2. So having them both on the coaching staff is definitely something worth having on the bench there. With that being said, I hope you agree with my Oklahoma City Thunder all-time team. I realize that after you get past number 6 and 7 on this list, it gets very questionable about the backup players on this team. So, you know, with this franchise being so young as just the Thunder, this is what all I have to work with at this point. Now, again, if you prefer to have the Seattle Supersonics commingled with this team, that's great. But I like to think that I like to split them up. There's enough great players for both sides of the coin that you could have a great dream matchup between the Oklahoma City Thunder greats versus the Seattle Supersonics greats. So stay tuned for a future video. I may play through that, or maybe I'll let the computer play through it. I haven't decided if I'm going to play or just let the computer do its thing. But stay tuned, and we'll definitely see who wins the battle between the all-time Thunder and the all-time Sonics. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to your comments below.